Hey folks, if you're a resident of Bellingham, Washington, or simply someone interested in local politics, there's a conversation that we absolutely need to have. The man at the center of this conversation is none other than Bellingham's mayor, Seth Fleetwood. Elected on promises of transformative change, he rode into office with a wave of optimism. But let's take a step back and ask, has Mayor Fleetwood really lived up to the expectations? Spoiler alert, I think not. Now, before diving deep into why Mayor Fleetwood hasn't met the lofty expectations, let me clarify that the intent here isn't to engage in character assassination. This is about holding public officials accountable for their actions, or lack thereof. Let's break down the multiple fronts where Seth Fleetwood has faltered, because hey, you deserve a mayor who delivers, and you need to know if the current one ain't cutting it. Environmental policy, more talk, less walk? If you heard Seth Fleetwood's campaign speeches, you'd think Bellingham was on the cusp of becoming a renewable energy utopia. Let me tell you, those speeches were electrifying, no pun intended, filled with buzzwords like sustainability and carbon-neutral future. But alas, the reality has been anything but. Sure, Fleetwood has initiated a few environmental projects, but there's a stark contrast between his soaring rhetoric and the actual on-the-ground changes. When you peel back the layers, it becomes painfully clear that his policy decisions are more performative than transformative. For instance, Fleetwood's ambitious promises about greening the city's infrastructure have seen little fruition. The administration's focus has been more on creating photo ops than implementing long-lasting environmental solutions. If you're talking a big game about reducing the city's carbon footprint, you need to show some substantial progress. Small, incremental changes are not enough when we're staring down the barrel of a climate catastrophe. Transparency and accountability, a murky picture. The cornerstone of any functioning democracy is a transparent and accountable administration. That's governance 101. But Mayor Fleetwood's tenure has been marred by backdoor dealings and a notable absence of public consultations on critical policy matters. We were promised open governance, but what we're getting feels like a one-man show. In a democratic society, citizens have a right to know how and why decisions are made, especially decisions that directly impact their lives. For instance, remember the controversial zoning decisions that caused an uproar? Fleetwood's office was noticeably evasive when asked about the consultation process, adding more fuel to the fire of public distrust. The information vacuum has not only led to speculation but also intensified community divisions, which is the last thing we need when navigating complex social and economic issues. Economic development, missing the mark? Bellingham is not just a community, it's an ecosystem of businesses, services, and people. An effective mayor needs to ensure that this ecosystem thrives, creating opportunities for everyone. On the campaign trail, Seth Fleetwood promised to build back better with a focus on local businesses. However, the actual economic policy we've seen leans heavily toward incentivizing big corporations to set up shop in Bellingham. While that's not inherently bad, the lack of equivalent support for local businesses undermines the community-centric model that Fleetwood claimed to champion. Don't just take my word for it. Look at the numbers. While we've seen some flashy new developments come into town, small businesses are reporting that they feel neglected by the city's administration. This isn't the balanced economic growth we were promised. It's a pathway to a monoculture that enriches a few while leaving many behind. So, what's the bottom line here? The bottom line is that you deserve better. We all do. Public safety, empty promises, or deliberate neglect? When it comes to the security and well-being of the community, you'd expect a mayor to have their finger on the pulse, right? Yet Fleetwood's approach to public safety has been, to put it mildly, lackadaisical. While crime rates fluctuate for a multitude of reasons, any spike should trigger immediate and comprehensive action from the administration. But what have we seen? A mere reshuffling of priorities with insufficient funding for community policing and prevention programs. In the era of social justice, where calls for reforming, not defunding, the police have gained momentum, Fleetwood's leadership seems to hover in an ambiguous middle ground. He promises to bring transformative changes to policing but has failed to demonstrate any meaningful progress. The absence of a cogent, long-term plan for public safety leaves the community at risk and perpetuates systemic issues that have long plagued our justice system. Community engagement, a one-sided conversation. F.